Welcome back to Grief Inspired. My name is Catherine McNulty and I bring light to the darkness of grief. And I really hope that if you're here, you're watching me, that you subscribe to my channel, that I am bringing light to the darkness of your grief. And if you're finding what you need here, let me know that. And if there's something that you feel like is really missing that you don't have, I want you to drop that in the comments below as well, because I'll do my very best to help you find what it is you need. And I want to remind you that I do have a grief journal. So this is available on Amazon. This is a journal with 4 parts in it to help you move forward in your grief. It starts with observing how you're feeling each and every day and in the moment, and then giving you a writing prompt to get you started with a little bit of journaling, just to really get you reflecting on things and help move you forward in your grief. And then there's gratitude. And we move to gratitude. Specifically, we think about what we've lost, and then we turn to gratitude and we choose gratitude actively to say, what do I still have? And then finally, there's a section, given all of that, is saying, what do I need today? What do I need right now in this moment? Now, in this video today, we are going to be talking about acceptance. And I'm sure that we've all heard the term acceptance as related to the 5 stages of grief, right? Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And acceptance is often like, well, I just have to get to acceptance. So a lot of my clients will come to me and say, well, I really just need to accept the loss. And so I want to explore that a little bit more today. And so the question becomes, well, what is acceptance for you? What does it mean for you to accept the loss of your loved one? And so I went to the dictionary and said, okay, well, what do I find there? And there were several different definitions. The first one I found said the action of consenting to receive something offered, as if someone has offered you your grief and you're choosing to accept it. That didn't seem quite right. So I kept on reading. The next one was the action of receiving something as adequate or suitable. Well, I know for me, I don't think I wanted my grief. I didn't want to lose my son, right? So I don't find that acceptable or suitable, or adequate or suitable. So I kept reading. And then I found another definition that said the willingness to tolerate a difficult situation. And that seemed much more relevant, right? Can you accept the reality of your loss? Can you tolerate the difficult situation that you are in now, because they have moved on, they have passed on, and you are here left living the life that you have, and it might be confusing, and you might not know how to do it, and you might be angry about it, and you might feel guilty about it, and all of these things. So how do you come to the place where you can really accept the loss and how you can tolerate it? So I want to talk about that today, because I often will explain and describe, and you may have heard this before, the way I try to describe grief to someone who doesn't know grief, right? And what I will tell people is, envision yourself walking down a path. It's the path of your expected future. And you can see down the road and you can see down the path and you know what's going to happen. Maybe not all of the details, but you have a pretty good idea of where you're headed because you can kind of see it. And then suddenly your loved one dies. And when that happens, it's as if, for me, it was like this massive wall coming down and blocking my path. And it stopped me. It stopped me. And I talk about, well, what do you do? Because that wall is there. You are now stopped. Grief has hit you. And you have to figure out what to do next. And I think if we get angry and we pound on the wall. We get depressed and we stand there and we look at the wall and we just are so upset that that wall is there. And we yell at the wall and we tell the wall to go away, or we just wish it would go away, right? These are all the things about grief. And we think about all of the things. Well, what made that wall come down to begin with? What could I have done to prevent the wall from coming down, right? These are all of the things that we think about. But when we talk about acceptance, to me, what acceptance is, when I'm thinking about that wall and I'm looking at the wall and I'm standing there, acceptance is the willingness to move. The acceptance is looking at the wall and saying, that is where I wanted to go. I wanted to go there with all of my might. I can't go there anymore. And so I have no other choice than to change directions. And acceptance is changing that direction. And it's interesting because when we talk about the 5 stages of grief, and again, you know, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, she created these for someone who was dying. And the acceptance was someone who knew they themselves were going to die and coming to an acceptance that there was nothing that they could do about it. So that's the true meaning that Elizabeth Kubler-Ross created as the 5th and final stage of grief. But I want to question that here, because to me, making the decision to make that change and realizing you have no choice but to change is that true acceptance. And so it's the willingness to change, to move forward, and the willingness to get started in the work. Because to me, grief work starts really when we accept it, because we can't let go of our anger. We can't give up our depression. We can't move through our depression. We can't stop feeling guilty. We can't stop, you know, we can't forgive ourselves. We can't give ourselves grace. We can't do any of that without the acceptance that our loved one is gone. But what we can do when we talk about accepting is we can also accept what we had. And so often we focus on just what we've lost. And so when we talk about acceptance today, I want to encourage you to think about accepting your loss and accepting your grief as something that you didn't want, as something that you would totally give back if you could, but yet something that you're willing to tolerate and then move forward with and say, I didn't want to do this, but I have to. And because the alternative is staying stuck. The alternative is wallowing. The alternative is years of misery and sadness and suffering, not only for you, but for everybody that's in your sphere, your friends, your family, your children. And so when you come to acceptance, the acceptance is willing to move forward and willing to put in the effort to learn about your grief, to learn about yourself, and to learn about what this means for your life moving forward. And there is an opportunity as you learn and as you grow to then share that outwardly with the people around you. You know, we talked a couple of weeks ago about pretending and why we have to pretend in our grief because other people can't handle it and we want to protect them, or we don't want to deal with their response to our grief. But if we can grieve and we can accept that we have to grieve and that we lean into grief and move forward and learn about grief and grow and become more of who we were meant to be, then we can share that outwardly and teach other people what grief is like, how to help someone who's grieving, what grief means to you, what your loved one meant to you, and what you want to create in the world in a way that honors them, to keep their memory alive, and to make your life have more meaning and purpose, because realistically, that's what we all want. We want to find meaning and purpose, and we know in our hearts that the meaning and purpose that we want to find is in connection with other people. And when we lose somebody that we love, we lose that connection, we feel like it's severed. We feel like it's severed, and we isolate, and we sit in the dark, and we cry, and this is all a necessary part of it. But in time, there needs to be an acceptance to create change, to accept the change that's happening in your life and say, now that I have to accept this change, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? How am I going to do it? And what do I want this all to mean for me and my life? And how can I take the love that I had for them, and instead of spreading my depression and my anger and the awful emotions that I'm feeling, how can I spread the love that they were? The love that they shared with you. The reason why you're grieving is because you love them so much. Share that love outwardly, and that will help you heal as well. And so I hope that helps you today. I hope that that helps. But at the end of the day, you need to define, what does acceptance of loss mean to you? How are you going to accept the loss? Are you going to stand there and continue to bang on the wall and yell at the wall and be mad at the wall? Or are you going to choose to say, the wall is here, I can't move the wall, I can't make my loved one come back, and so I have to choose something else? Can you start by accepting to choose something else? Have a great day today. Reach out to me if I can help you. You can email me at GriefInspired@gmail.com. If you want to learn about my courses, about how to help you move forward, how to release some of the guilt and the pain and the anger, and how to find some more of that acceptance, then I want to invite you to reach out to me, and let's work together and get you moving forward on your grief so that you can share the love that you have for the people that you've lost. Take care of yourself, and bye for now.